But it is kind of public. What's going on, everybody? Hi! Hi, what's going on? It's me again, your friendly neighborhood fuse. Hi. Welcome. Welcome. We've got Ms. Prince here again. Do some painting. Do some chitter chatter. Jibber jabber. Talks with hands. What is going on? Hello. Why, hello there. How are you today? Welcome to Thursday. Howdy. Hi. Hello. How are you? How we doing? I don't think I've cleaned my clean out water in a long time. Let's just put it like that. I think it's been a while. Kind of like right there. That feels good. How about we do that, camera? Poor pig, what is going on? Doing pretty well, getting some old school scaving done. Like metal, old school. I've always liked Skaven. I've never played them, and I got to be honest, I don't know that if I go back, I might be able to say I've painted a handful, but I've never really spent any time painting Skaven. I've done some tutorials and lessons with individuals on painting Skaven over the years, but never focused on it. I think we painted the big vermin lord, on stream once, but I haven't never spent a whole lot of time with them. You got a bunch of models that I kind of dig. Always found them fun in the same way that orcs and goblins were fun, right? Like Skaven could do all sorts of crazy crap to themselves. With their warp stone nonsense, warp cheese. Warp crack, exactly. Zombie Brush, what's going on? Big Bob, sorry you're late, boss. I'll be your official beer sampler. Hired. Hired. Pick us a good one. Pick us a good one. Still haven't heard back on any of that stuff. Can't even submit our damn beer and wine application until we get the corporate commission getting back to us. But I assume it's the government, and none of it happens fast. Kind of what we're thinking here, right? We're going to go with, yeah, none of that's going to happen until the sun burns out. But we'll see. Maybe we'll get pleasantly surprised by the city of Phoenix, state of Arizona. Yeah. I don't think anything happens real fast here. It's the government. The government doesn't have a whole lot of incentive to do stuff fast because they're paid by the hour. So, hello, everybody. Hopefully, your week's doing all right. Enjoying yourselves. Had a delivery today over at the new building, and the guy and I were joking. He's like, "You know what the problem with Thursday is?" I was like, "What?" I said, "Is it because it's too close to Friday?" Thursday doesn't get an identity of its own because it's just too close to Friday. So we're like, "Ah, Thursday, get out of the way. Friday's almost here." Or Thursday. That's why Thursday becomes therapy day around here. Good day. Kind of tweaked my back today, so I'm hoping that doesn't wind up killing me while I'm streaming here. Had to meet said delivery person over at the new building and unload a hell of a lot of weight in metal shelving for all of the paint stock. We're redoing how we stock all of the paint that's been bottled. And I kind of was trying to go fast, and I shouldn't have been going fast. You do the whole, hey, forgot to lift with my legs thing. And you know how you remember you forgot to lift with your legs? Because your back hurts. That's how that works. That's how that works. Dang it. Houdini, what's happening? Counting down days until you get your rack. Zombie. Nice. Nice. 30 storm vermin. The old storm vermin were bitching. The metal storm vermin, those were good models. Do they have plastic storm vermin now, or did they go to like that crappy like resin that they screwed the pooch on so badly? Mo, what's happening? Love your face. What's going on, big man? If you have not yet, oh, you know what we should have done? Did I do that? Did I? I don't think I did, right? I didn't create a Discord command yet, did I? Did somebody do it? Yeah. Oh, did Russ make it with the link from the post? Oh, maybe so. Does the Discord thing work here? No, it doesn't, does it? All right, give me a minute. I'm going to fix this right now. Mo, thank you so much, man. 49 freaking months. 49 months. Lying liars who lie. All right, let's see here. Let's go in. I'm going to go do the Streamlabs thing real quick. Guys, we're going to add the Discord command in. Which means I also have to go over here to, like, what did we do? We posted on Facebook, right? I feel like we did. We need to get all this stuff going. Need to do this. Where's the thing? There's the thing. Come on, you silly thing. That's not what I told you to do. That's not what I said. There we go. All right. Search for post with Discord logo. There it is. Copy this text. Copy link address. All right, cool. Now let's go back over here. We can close that down because that isn't a thing that's needed anymore. You're not necessary, Facebook. Thank you for your time. Come over here. Commands. Add a command. Oh, wait a minute. Is there a command? Dankeschön. Telemachus with the 39. And Fert with the 4. Thank you, guys. Hold, please. Just 1 second. Let me get all this stuff in here. I can't remember if there was already one and I just turned it off. I don't think so. Nope. Doesn't look like it. All right. Add a command. Talks with hands. Thank you for the 2 months. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Let's do exclamation point Discord. Thank you for the biddies. Hold, please. 1 second. Okay. Join us for all the jibber jabber you can handle, plus some more that you can't. Yeah. So there. Link. Holy moly. that That's too much link. What the? Gotta go back to Facebook. That's like give me 15 million miles of Facebook link. It does what? Which voice? That yeah, and so there, and stuff and things, and stuff and things. All right, so let's just can we just copy? Yeah, let's just copy that instead of copy link address. Let's just do copy because you know that actually then does that. Ta-da! Can confirm. It's on. Will someone test, please? Dancing with the Cats, what's going on? Dragonheart, Jab the Gibber. Jib Jabber. Discord. That's not how you spell that, Jason. There you go. Okay, there you go. It worked. Ta-da! And it's exactly what I said I was writing. Join us for all the jibber jabber you can handle, plus some more that you can't. Yeah, so there. See, I deliver. I'm not just making this stuff up. there you go. Join us on Discord. I'm not over there right now, but I'm sure you could be, because why not, right? I mean, why not? So there you go. Copy into Bitly. I've never even used that. This is all this funky new technology you're trying to. I'm 50 years old, man. It's a wonder I can even type anymore. Leave me alone. Get off my lawn. So we started up the Discord. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff over there, so make sure you join us. Well, I say started up. We've had the Discord for, since Discord started. I was one of the beta testers for Discord back in the day, believe it or not, as they were trying to move some of our video game groups away from TeamSpeak. And, yeah, we've had Discord all the way since back when we would stream video games and have everybody in chat when we moved our TeamSpeak server to Discord. Since then, since I stopped playing video games on stream, I haven't used it much. So Kenny and I used to use it a little bit. Then I was like, nope, I don't care about this thing. Now it's back, right? The Discord is back in full effect. We got a lot of people over there. We've been having a lot of fun. I literally come into the office every morning and it auto starts when my computer starts up, so that way I don't forget about it. And I'm on the freaking messenger thing all day long. So it gives you a good insight and peek into my daily goings on, because I might just jump into chat and scream because I'm having to deal with something I don't like or whatever. But some really good ideas going on over there. We came up today with a good idea for some challenges. So we'll be doing some community challenges over in the Discord. Be a good way to get involved in some hobby awesomeness. Some prizes, some winnings. I'm going to do one for October. I promised the gang that I would start it up and we do an October challenge. I just have to figure out what it is. It'll be something spooky, most likely. And we will announce that in Discord tomorrow, so make sure you join the Discord. There you go. There you go. And you can go make fun of all these people that are over there when they should be working. I wasn't talking about you. Ray's over there taking it all personal. So we're working some more on getting the fundamental layers down for our non-metallic gold, and we're using green and orange. There you go. There you go. Orange and green somehow make gold. Just bear with me, all right? Just stop before you get all crazy. Just wait for it. It'll work. You've collected all of the level 1 emotes. You out of here? She's still back there. Yeah, she can lock you out. Take it easy, man. Dragonheart, what is going on? Rancid Vomit, hello. Painting is working around here. Well, sorta. The Sauce, what is going on? The Sauce painting. Make sure, Sauce, if you can, throw up a link to your Instagram so that we can get you some more people from our little community here over in your wonderful world. The Sauce does some amazing painting. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Thursday. Little therapy going on, little therapy. Ask your questions. We're more than happy to help you through your life by giving you some really, really bad answers to how to handle issues that you might be coming across in your daily life. Bad life advice is very expensive here. The good life advice is usually free. The bad life advice we charge out the nose for, man. Because good life advice is not guaranteed to change your life, right? Isn't that weird how that works? Bad life advice, guaranteed to change your life. There's a bunch of asterisks and footnotes that need to be discussed there, but we don't really like to focus on that. The sauce. Making a guy blush. You deserve it, man. Good stuff on your Instagram. It's always worth looking at. Jen doesn't understand the whole Discord thing, but she's pretty sure you just click the link. Yes. Yes, just click the link. It makes things happen. It's funny. The wild technology your kids come up with. Click on the thing. Stuff starts to happen. Don't scream and yell. Give them your firstborn. And voila, have fun. And viola. Have fun. So we're starting to dial in all of the reflective qualities of our metals with a darker color, right? So I'm starting with really my second color. Our base coat was dark camo green, as you can see from down here along her belt and her crown and all that stuff. And then the next color that we're using is burnt orange. And so the burnt orange is still a very dark color. It could have been the base color just as easily. But we start using it to dial in our reflections, right? So we're starting to brighten up areas. Lets us go in and before we get too wild and crazy with contrast, start putting some really cool steps together and be able to direct traffic with where we want our brightness to be, right? It allows you to look at the model and say, okay, yeah, that looks great. Or nope, that was a totally misplaced reflection. You know, I need to get darker there, brighter there. And without risking doing it with a really bright color that you might sometimes go a little overboard on. I like to start this way because when we're teaching non-metallics or reflective materials, a lot of people get real hesitant when doing it because they don't know where to place their lighting sources and their reflections, dark reflections, bright reflections, all of that. And so they'll go around and they'll poke with assume like you painted it black base coat primer or whatever, and then you go with like a really bright neutral gray or white, and you start dialing your contrasts in there. You can do that, and you can be like, okay, great, that's where I want my shine, and now I have my darkness. You have this really broad contrast going on. And then you got to work at, oh God, now what do I do? And you start blending between your really bright color and your really dark color, and the brain, if you've been painting for a while, tends to want to make that a very smooth transition from that blend, right? So rather than then maintaining your contrast, which is what gives you the reflective quality of the surface that you're painting, you know, where you want to have, let's pull out a model, right? So we're not just talking out of our butts here, right? So the whole idea with, you know, reflective or what people are calling non-metallic metal, right, is that as we paint and we want to give the illusion of a shiny surface, no matter if it's, you know, a dull shine like this or a, you know, brighter shine like the belly plate, whatever, is that you got to make sure that contrast exists through from start to finish so that you register, you know, that shine. And if you just start in, like, say this sword was black and I just started dialing in with my bright colors, all of my shine, instinctively I'm probably going to then go between darkness and brightness and blend further because that's just how we paint. For everything else we do, the skin, we don't leave as much contrast on skin. There's still contrast there, but our area from our brightest to our darkest tends to blend and have longer blends across it. So you've got your brightest skin to your darkest skin, and you have like 6 or 7 steps of value changing as you go from shadow to highlight. On metal, you want it to be very abrupt. The shinier you want your metal to read. So instead of, long blends from bright to dark, you might have spots where your brightness sits very, very close to your darkness, right? And you don't do that blend between them, right? You've got a spot of brightness right here that's kind of like a spotlight, and then it gets dark very quickly all around it, and that's what gives it that shine, or the feeling of shine, right? And so starting with your mid-tones or your mid-shadow tones as setting up where you want your shine to go can help alleviate some of that, because now you're placing those reflections on there with a color that can blend from your darkness very easily. And now I can go in, and if I wanted to go bright gold, I could just sit in with a yellow ochre or a brighter yellow and dial it closer and closer to my bright spot, because I'm going to be doing what I normally do, which is working from darkness to brightness, and I'm just kind of blending as I go. So I've got that nice change, but I'm only leaving myself, like technically like from here to put my next color, right? Because if I put my next color down here, I'm going to take over the orange altogether. So I've really only got from right about here to right about here to put my next brightest color. So now I inherently maintain my contrast, because as I put a bright color right in this spot, right, it's going to be a lot further away from my darkness. And then I go with my brightest color up in top of here, and you'll see as we work through this how I'm able to create that shine without having all that messiness of, oh God, how am I going to blend from white to black and not have just everything look like dull gray? There you go. There's your lesson for the day. Now it's back to nonsense and jibber jabber. What is the best way to eat day-old sushi? If you saw our social media post. I feel like you shouldn't be afraid of the day-old sushi. But I also wouldn't blame you if you offered it to coworkers or something. Hey, I got you some sushi. Steiner, what's happening? The sauce. Oh, I'm loving this. This is from Hate. We've been painting some of the Hate models. We just never get done, right? From the front, he looks great. And then you turn him around, and it's like, hey, Fuse, what are you doing? Taking a vacation? We don't talk about that. We put Hank back on the shelf, and we don't talk about that. Absolutely love the Adrian Smith character designs. Always have. And his Hate stuff is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Realize I am fairly thin as I'm working with this color. Not so thin that, you see I'm getting coverage with my first layer, so to speak, but it's not going to be predominant and taking over the green 100%. My green still gets to blend in there a little bit. Because we are dry blending. There's a word, right? The base layer is dry, so we're hoping to be able to create our blends by using a little bit of a thinner paint here. Rather than mixing on the palette, you could also mix the dark camo green and the orange on your palette and avoid having to figure out, how to control the consistency of your paint. I've been painting for upwards of 40 years. I hate saying that, man. I'm so old. I'm so old. Don't hold it against me, though. And, so I've kind of, I don't have those fears on painting thin. So whatever consistency you want me to paint, I'll paint. But what it allows you to do is not have to, because on stream, a lot of times we do a lot of this. I'm jibber jabbering all the time. And so my paint tends to dry up. I live in the desert anyway. So paint tends to dry as we work. So for me, painting thin over a dry coat of paint makes more sense during streaming. And I wet blend a lot when I'm off stream. And we do wet blending on here too. But, when we're mixing colors on the model or I'm mixing more color on the palette. But a lot of times you'll just find me using straight bottle paint burnt orange over dark camo green. But I'm getting all of the blended colors that I would get by mixing them on the palette by painting thin, right? And so there's always the opportunity to do that. It's just another thing that we show. Some people love it. Some people don't ever really get the hang of painting thin. It's fine. You don't have to. Everything you're seeing happen on the model here could be done by mixing these two colors together on your palette to get all of the midtones, and then you don't have to worry about it. You just paint it where it goes. Right. Instead, I'll take the time to do, 2 or 3 layers quickly to get the color where I want it, more in some cases. And we'll build it up and we'll get all those blended colors anyway. And right now you're seeing a nice kind of base for like bronze show up here is what this is. Because we're doing her more like movie Wonder Woman. So it's not going to be like, Linda Carter, like super gold, wah, Wonder Woman. That's not what we're doing, right? So. And Ruben and Blake, watch out for the sushi. Hey guys, I brought you sushi. You know how much I love our employees at Monument Hobbies? We bring them sushi every other day. So you're saying you don't have that wet ass paint? Black Wolf, what's happening? Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you? 13 days to put your birthday order Pro Acryl in. Oh my God, yes. Best birthday present ever, Steiner. Happy early birthday. You're more afraid of day-old sushi than you are of COVID? Probably not a bad way to look at it, actually. Ross, what's happening, man? Arctic Mini Penny, what is going on? Use your name as your password. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? It makes it easier to remember if you use your name as your password. My password is always just the word password, because that's even easier. If it's crab salad, just eat it. Like mackerel. They'll probably just right in the toilet. throw the day old sushi just right into the toilet. Skip all the middleman. Skip all the middleman. You really like the voice I did in this? What? What? Oh, Wonder Woman. Wait a minute. Zombie Brush has already got me delivering product on people's birthdays. That's not the thing. Happy birthday, Steiner Miniatures. Happy birthday. Don't make me do that. Like, we used to do that. We don't need to be starting that again. People get really weirded out when I do, like, the Marilyn Monroe, like, sultry happy birthday song to, like, random folks in the stream. I feel like we lose more viewers than we gain. And the ones we gain are probably not the ones we want. Just saying. I'm not trying to, like, fetish shame you or anything. I'm just saying. Black Wolf says, never sing again. Well, sorry, buddy. Sorry, buddy. It's in my blood, man. I just have to sing. I have to dance and sing a song. It's going to happen, man. It's just going to happen. You can try to be like the Holy Grail where you just try to shut me down, push me out a window. I'll be back, man. I will be back. You can't stop me. You can only hope to contain me. This bus has no brakes. No brakes. Game Father Foe, what the heck is going on, man? Monus, you got the base set? Yes. We put them back in stock this week. It's good. It's glorious. Arctic Mini Penny says, now you're just getting creepy and it's great. It's like I tuned in on the right day. And hey, psst, Jen's even here. Like normally when I get this way, it's because I don't have any adult supervision, but I'm doing it regardless. I don't even care. Jen's in the other room. Think she can stop me? I got ninja skills. By Odin's mighty mustache, please stop with the singing, I'm assuming is what that is. Your caps don't scare me, Black Wolf. They don't. Your all caps don't scare me. As long as I don't do the dance. Wait a minute. Are you saying something about my dancing? Cue Jen carrying scissors. I'd be like, happy birthday. Skizzors. Skizzors. I changed my password to beef stew, but it wouldn't take it and said it wasn't stroganoff. Mazakil, what's going on? Thank you for the follow. If you like us during this nonsense, you're in for a treat. I always feel like this is the day that weeds out the thin-skinned. If you join us on a Thursday and you still hit the follow button or the sub button, you're a hero. Plain and simple. Is the Discord the proper place to ask how you paint the TMNT Zombicide figures? Sure. I don't know. You can ask anything you want over on the Discord. Somebody will give you an answer. There's a lot of activity on the Discord, actually, since we posted it yesterday. In the last 24 hours, has been more activity on our Discord than in, like, the preceding 3 years, I think. Mo says, please stop. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We do. Exclamation point Discord. We've had it for years. I just have never really been one that I wanted to focus any time on it, but you guys have pushed me over the edge. Russ and the gang have been like, you know, you should use the Discord. And I gave in. I caved. I got it on the work computer. I started it up. I made some categories. We're going to turn it into a thing. So there you go. There you go. Don't get used to it. You can't threaten me into everything. This one time. That's all you get. That's all you get. That's all you get, man. Well, all right then. Not going to go as bright on this side of the chest armor, because obviously this would be more in the shadow, darker reflection. But we do have to take into account the fact that the other side would reflect back, and the skin, right, on her chest would cause some brightness to occur on the metallic here too. It'll be dimmer, but we'll sneak some in there. Make it work. Do what we want. We do what we want. This side obviously would be brighter. The light on her is technically coming from our left, but we haven't really played a lot with lighting as of yet. But it is kind of 10 o'clock on this model. Was the idea. We're closing in on the end of another week. Hopefully this week has been good for peoples. We have been, as usual, working our proverbial tails off. Jen is in there just swamped. We put base sets back in stock. Jen knew it was coming, though. She's like, all right, I'm prepped. I got this. She's still swamped. It doesn't matter how much prep time you do. Base sets go back in stock. You cry. You just cry. It's just a lot of work. She's doing that. Ray Silver just left to go home. Another long day of filling more paints. Should have expansion set 1 back in stock tomorrow. Monday at the latest, but I think I can sneak some in tomorrow. So we are dialing it in, so to speak. Almost there, folks. Who dat? Jag Mirage, what is going on? 5 freaking months. Thank you so much. So I found that during the pandemic, you can stream in the afternoons from the office. Game changer. I'm kind of jealous, although I'm streaming from my office as well. So welcome to the team. I think that's great. I think that's great. Jen's like, please be patient with orders. She's killing it, though. She's killing it. She's got a good system now. Mo says, you can speak as much as you want, just don't sing, please. What if I sing everything, and then you just get used to it? Would that work? Like if everything I say is like a 1940s movie. Right? Could we just do that? If I'm just sing-songy through everything? When we paint the gold, we... Nope. He says nope. Bill Robertson, thank you for the 7 months. So if you're just joining us, everybody's on a crusade for some reason to get me to stop singing. I have no idea what's going on. I feel a little put upon. I feel like I need a safe space. I feel like it could be kind of like, you know, like Willy Wonka, right? You had mostly not singing and then some really good moments of singing. I feel like that's what we should do on the stream. We should have lots of not singing punctuated by some moments of really, really horrible singing, right? Because I got that. I can do these things for you, and you don't have to even pay for it. I feel like maybe it's like the taking the clothes off thing, right? You got to pay me to keep the clothes on around here, right? Unlike those other streamers. And that freaky boat scene on Willy Wonka. Yeah, exactly. Willy Wonka, but only the tunnel scene. Just on loop. Just on loop. It's like, wow, psycho. Like I said, we got to be careful, right? Because I feel like, you know, we run the risk of driving some viewers away when we do those things. And the ones we keep are not the ones that you want to keep, right? When you do that kind of stuff, psycho crazy stuff. You're left at the end, you're like, so, how's everybody doing? And they're all like, sing more, Fuse. I'm like, oh, it's you guys. What happened to Mo and Black Wolf? What happened to all those other people that were cool? You sang them away, Fuse. You sang them away. You lost them. I have nobody to blame but myself. Welcome to Thursday, everybody. It is Therapy Thursday. If you have any questions that you want answered, life questions, feel free. I've got the answers to everything. Life, the universe, everything. It's not 42. Don't believe the hype. That was a ruse, conspiracy to get you to not pay attention to the truth. The singing will continue until morale improves. I like your style, Burley. I like your style. Only the strong survive. Okay, I like that thought too, right? Like I just keep singing and we just weed out the weak. We just cull the weak. We just cull the weak. So I'm glad I have the rest of you 6 people who survived my singing. We shall continue from here and build an empire unlike any seen amongst the nations of men. Welcome. The strong will bathe in their tears. Will bath in their tears. We will bathe in the tears of those people who hate my singing. I feel like this is really bad marketing. I should have stayed. Shouldn't have failed out of that marketing class. It seemed so irrelevant at the time. Wife said you can buy the rest of the whole line? Steiner? What? That just became an even better birthday, man. What the heck? Congrats and thank you at the same time. It's always weird, right? As the manufacturer, what do you say? When somebody says, I'm going to buy all your stuff, do you say, I mean, the first thing you want to do is say thank you. That's awesome. But on the other side, you're like, that's bitching. You get to buy all our stuff. Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, hear the lamentations of their women. This was meant to be marketing? I don't know. I'm trying to convince all you guys I'm cool. That's why I'm singing. Is it not working? Rats. Mersh, the Mandalorian, just got back from the kitchen, which is still in hearing range. You actually got a solid singing. Well, I did used to sing, but I don't practice anymore. So there you go. But see? Mersh actually gets it. Gets it. Mersh shall be one of the 7. Me plus the 6 that survived my singing, we are the 7. All right, backside. What is going on? Thank you for that follow. And my God, are you brave? If you're like in the kitchen and you have the volume turned up on this show, loud enough to still be able to hear it. Brave soul. Brave soul. Because the next thing I do when I find those things out is I say, Alexa, order me a pizza. Who'd I get today? Did we get anything? Soda Addict, what's going on? Sing, my angel of music. We were talking about just singing everything, right? So when we paint reflective surfaces, we always start from dark to light. Right? But then we were going to lose like 90% of our viewers. So I have to weigh this properly. I have to be like, okay, is it worth it? Like some of these people I've grown to really like and respect over the years. I like Mo. I like Black Wolf. Black Wolf's a local. I got to be careful. If we piss him off, he could actually like, come and hurt us. Right? Just gave him my physical address today. Oh, this could go horribly wrong. Zen was like, I quickly turned to, I saw it coming. Zen's like, oh God, here's where the Alexa comes. Rancid says, my Alexa and my tablet just tried to order a pizza. See, you're not safe around here. You're never safe. Alexa, order a Gulfstream airplane. Mersh says I have a small apartment, so it doesn't have to be that loud. Bill Robertson, can I take my subscription back? No, we have you. I mean, the flip side is that you get to stare at like nicely painted models. So if you just turn the volume off, I mean, come on. I can only blame you for these mistakes you make. Rancid Vomit's like, well, it looks like I'm getting a Gulfstream. Oh. Watch as streamer community goes into billion-dollar debt by back ordering all custom Gulfstreams. Was it like G3? Buy me a G3. Are they still G3s? I don't know. Screw it. Let's see if it puts up the viewership. Russ will get like front page on Twitch because Twitch will be like, you got to see this nonsense. You got to see this nonsense. You need to stock up on tiers because you're convinced it's the secret ingredient to the transparent paints. I mean, We're not supposed to talk about that to real people. You've been hyping the glue? It's so good, right? So good. Oh, you're doing a giveaway for one? Can I enter? I need some glue. We make glue. Pow. Pow. But it has no bar. That's where the barcode goes. But I didn't make a barcode because I didn't want to. This voice will be used for something at some point. You're just going to sample it, and like we're going to get like some really raw video of just me. If I sing enough words, I'll just go through the dictionary and sing all the words, and then we'll put it out in an audio file, and you guys can, it'll be a contest to put all the words together, my sing-songy words, and create a song. I love it that Rancid's like, well, looks like I'm getting a Gulfstream. Alexa, buy ACRYL. You want to code Alexa to reply no, Jason? Just no. Now that would be pretty good. Bill Robertson, the Chevette fundraiser. Oh, that's right. I turned it off a while back because I was recording videos. I used the same streaming environment minus some of the details to record like quickies and small videos. So I was doing that, and I took it off for that. And I always forgot to put it back up. But no, we didn't make it. We still are like $19.5 million short. Way more than that. We're like all but $700 away. Or no, yeah, did I say that right? Yeah, we need all but $700. There. Soda Addict's like, I'm sorry, Jason. I can't do that right now. Rancid Bobbit, yours said, are you looking for pro girls? Did you say yes? Because I just want to know what she says. Yes, I meant pro girls. Alexa, buy me pro girls. I feel like that's when you go to jail, though. Now I'm going to have to come bail you out, aren't I? I should think these things out. Ray's on a tear. He's like, we're going to talk about the struggle cuddle. So I work with a group of people here. And by group, I mean Blake and Ray, who it's very interesting, the conversations that happen during the course of any given day with these guys. And I'm learning a lot that I don't know that I would have ever, like, if you'd have put it in a class description, I probably wouldn't have paid for the class. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. Although I laughed my ass off this morning, excuse my French, but I did laugh quite a bit this morning with learning some really awesome things. So, and Jen shook her head a lot, which means that it's usually pretty good, right? If it gets Jen to do the, right? Like, I don't know that we got an audible sigh out of Jen this morning, but we probably got close. We probably got close. But I still don't think I'd pay for that class. No offense to Blake or Ray, but I'm pretty sure that I would have flipped the page to the next set of courses available. You learned a bit about painting today? A little bit. A little bit. I'm surprised. And I'm not going to say anything. I think if I create a wiki for you and put the correct wording, I could cheat the system, and if you ask the correct question, she would answer. I'd be saving viewers, is your thinking. Saving viewers from what? Themselves? From having awesome airplanes? I don't think anybody likes you for that. Right? Like, what if there's a viewer out there that has some spare cash laying around, and it just happens to be the right amount to buy a Gulfstream G3 or G4, right? And I were to say, Alexa, please buy me a Gulfstream G4. And now that one special person in chat has an amazing airplane, right? So I feel like I'm doing a service. It might be a very narrow-banded service. Like, it's not very broad in its thinking. It doesn't have a lot of reach. It's not very, like, philanthropic necessarily. But, you know, You doubt if the class is it is not voluntary. That's the problem. It's been thrust upon me, and I use that word intentionally. Could actually use a plane to get to your girlfriend right now. Not that you'd have any money when you got there. Yeah, but you'd have the plane, right? You may also want to say, Alexa, sign me up for pilot training. I think when you buy a G4, you get a pilot for a while, don't you? It's kind of like when you buy like those big fancy Mercedes Maybachs or whatever it is, right? I think you also get a driver with it, like a contracted driver for 6 to 8 months or some crap like that. Which, by the way, that should be one too. Alexa, shop for Maybachs. They even make those anymore? Did that last? Or is that like Mercedes' worst idea ever and they vanished into thin air? That could be a thing. What's going on, Armins? Bruce. We are off to a very crazy slow fuse Thursday. It is a therapy day. Also whip day. Feel free, exclamation point WIP in chat. Get you the link over to the Monument Hobbies website where you, yes, you, I'm talking to you, not your Alexa anymore, but you, can post up pictures of what you've been working on in the hobby. If you want to get any pointers from me, ideas, get some questions answered about maybe techniques you've been trying or want to try, feel free to post them up over there. Just make sure you include your Twitch name along with the question you would like to ask. And we usually get into those like the last hour of the stream, between the hours of 6 and 7 Pacific here. If you are one like me who struggles with time zones, that's in about an hour and 15 minutes. Mersh, you hate to, but you need to bounce. Got to get up in about 6 hours. Hey, have a great evening. Thanks for joining us, Mersh. Appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Take it easy. If there really was said viewers, surely you should end your Alexa comment with your address. Alexa, please purchase a Maybach and send to me. See, that's just getting greedy, though. Like, I'm trying to help people, not just help myself. Licking your brushes, sniffing your glue, and drinking the dirty paint water. Party. Party. You know how to get down out there in Florida. But I'm people too. I am? Oh, God. That means a lot to me. If you consider me to be people too, this is the best day of my life. I'm a real boy. T. Schmidt, yeah, I've ridden in a Maybach. They're bitching cars. Did somebody answer? So are they still around? With the back seat. That and the old, was it the 750 IL? 7 Series IL from BMW back in the day. They didn't have Maybachs back then, I don't think, but the 700 series had, I think it was an IL. It was the long version, it was the limo version of that. It had the extra long rear doors. And there was one that a buddy of mine had in Dallas way back when, and like the back seat would like recline and had, like a lazy boy, had the footrest that came up on the back seat. So you know when you get a car like that, it's like, well, obviously the owner is supposed to be in the back seat, not driving it. It's kind of like the Maybach. It's like, you're not supposed to drive a Maybach. The Sauce, take it easy, man. Thanks for hanging out. Those are obviously not cars built for the owner to drive, which is part of the reason why I can never really understand them. I mean, I understand them. I look at it and I'm like, wow, that's a bitchin' car. I can't understand having one, though. But I am not rarefied air, gentrified at that level. So I drive a Nissan Frontier pickup truck that up until yesterday had really crappy tires on it. We got new tires on it. Baby got new shoes. The Sauce, I don't know if you jumped out immediately. If you didn't, place your Instagram link up in chat again. Got more people hanging out. If you're still in here, please do that. If you're not, well, then you won't hear me at all. It's irrelevant. And the rest of you should go and on Instagram look for Sauce Painting and give that man a follow. Great stuff. Always fun to look at. Great painter. I think we can work with that. I'm just gonna focus on. I'm not gonna worry about all the back and our hip stuff right now. I'm gonna work on getting the gold dialed in on the chest area. Then we'll move on to the rest of it. In the late 90s, Dark Templar says, I helped load the German Prime Minister's BMW on a C-130, all the safety features of the president's limo. So while it wasn't a limo size, it still weighed over 9,000 pounds. Yeah. So I worked in a car stereo place during college, and it was down in Austin, Texas. And there were a lot of like government official cars, like state government. I don't know if there were federal. Obviously, there's federal building and stuff down there. I don't remember who the cars all belonged to, but there were always like cars coming in that had like bulletproof glass. Like back in the day, we're talking about, the early '90s kind of thing, and the glass wouldn't roll down. You couldn't roll down the windows because the bulletproof glass and the weighted chassis, so that it was reinforced on the underside and super heavy duty suspension. A lot of like Chevy Suburbans, I think it was. And I don't know. I don't think the Ford had their big one yet back then in the early 90s. Maybe they did. The Expedition or whatever it was. The Explorer existed. I don't know if the Expedition was out yet. But, big SUVs and stuff with bulletproof glass and panels layered inside the body for all of that. And, then they were also getting stereos or security systems and things like that. And, I just remember all the crazy stuff they would do to cars for, like, security and all that. The Ford Brontosaurus? That's not a thing. I'm not that old that I'll admit. I don't have to talk. You can't talk to me like that. You're going to do it anyway, so I don't care. Yellow ochre, anyone? Anyone? Yellow ochre? I'm a fan of yellow ochre. Let's use some yellow ochre. The Ford Expedition, it was called, right? Buddy of mine in Dallas had one of those. Huge damn vehicle, man. Wow. Like by the time you got to the 6th row of seating or whatever. Okay, let's start over here. Darkness, what is going on? 39 freaking months. Heck yeah, my friend. How you doing? Again, we had to start practicing the rule of 50% here, where we don't cover more than 50% of the area we painted prior, where we're at right now. Start laying in the beginnings of all of our edge highlight. Slow, but sure. Are you sure? Very sure. Dial the same thing in all the way over these panels, right? We know on all of these upper panels, we've got our bright spot right along this outside edge. And blend back down into everything else, always ending my brush stroke up here, right? That gives me that blend that I'm looking for. Come back and catch that whole edge. Now you can kind of start seeing where we're going, and we'll continue to dial all this in. I'm just starting off fairly modestly here with the brightness and see if we get the right look that I'm going for by keeping the reflection either very narrow band, or I can extend this out if I do a couple of pieces and I'm not really happy with the way it looks. And I can broaden it out a little bit. That. And I got to make sure I come back and kind of match how long that level of brightness exists on all of the panels that face the same direction, right? So if I have this much brightness before I start blending, and I do a very quick edge blend into my orange, then I got to match that up here, right? Because it doesn't make sense. This edge up here and this edge right here are facing the same direction towards my light. So you want to make sure your brightness kind of extends the same. You don't want to make it blocky, but you want to make sure that your brightness doesn't start to fade earlier on this top section or later on this top section in some cases than this one down here. You're always just trying to kind of make a match. That's pretty good. Same thing up top. As the color starts running low on my brush, I can use that thinness. Make sure I get a nice light blended area of brightness up top. Not quite as much. You'll hear me talk a lot about how I, even though I can notice that the brush is not delivering paint in the same way as you use more and more of the paint. Does that make sense? Right? The more you use the brush, the less paint it has on it. The thinner that paint starts to look in some cases, because we just don't have much pigment. And I can still use that to my advantage. Right? I don't want the top of that chest piece to be as bright as I'm doing on the front. But rather than go back to the palette, remix my paint, rethin it out, I can just continue using the same brush. I've been painting here more opaque. Now as the paint leaves the brush, I don't have as much. Now it's going to give me this ability to do more glazing back here. And very quickly, I can dial in a nice kind of subtle blend of our yellow. Again, we're using yellow ochre right now. Just Hanley, 10 months. We've been putting up with you around here for 10 months? Holy. What's going on, Jeff? Good to see you. Expedition was the F-150 framed on, and the Excursion was the F-250 framed. The Excursion and the Expedition? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's just called the Excursion that I'm thinking of. Whatever the big one was. I thought it was on the 350 or the 250 chassis and the 350 chassis, right? So maybe that's what it is. Excursion then is what I'm thinking. The whatever the massive one was. I was calling it an Expedition for some reason. Maybe they had both. Code Wiz, what's going on? Just Hen is like, I'm like a bad penny. It can't get rid of me. So I never understood that. What exactly is a bad penny? Like, is there a penny that you like take it into the store and you try to pay for something with it, and they're like, nope, we don't take those. Even down on these inside panels, because we're not near our brightest color yet, right? The yellow oak, I mean, you could be if you wanted to stop here, but even then, you want to get a little bit of brightness sunk down into these inside panels. Again, matching it as best you can with the brightness up above, just understanding that when they're recessed like this, you won't have your brightness extend near as far. Right? But we keep it moving towards the same direction. Our brightness will be up in this area, but we'll tail it off really quickly on those inside parts. Again, we're just kind of sketching this in. It's still being able to be loose. We don't have to worry about blending just yet as much. That works pretty good. Come back and clean up some of these. And I think I'm going to like that. I like the transition from our green to our burnt orange into our yellow ochre. And then, of course, when we brighten, it's a little cartoony yellow right now, even though we're using yellow ochre as opposed to, like a golden yellow, right? You think of yellow, yellow, and we're using yellow ochre, which is a lot dimmer. But when it's the brightest thing on the model in that color, it still gives you a very cartoony yellow, which might be more than you really want. Like it's not a true gold, right? It looks kind of fake. But once we go in with a brighter color over this, and we won't be using yellow, we'll be taking this and probably olive flesh to brighten that up. And that'll be the most yellow that we get in most cases. And so as soon as we start brightening this up, you'll see that yellow goes away. It won't be as intense. So again, part of doing reflective surfaces, non-metallic painting, whatever you want to call it, is that you will need to gain that patience and that kind of understanding that at every given stage, while the model will start to take shape, you'll start to see, hopefully, more of that contrast, more of that reflective nature occur as you get good in placing all of your values. You're still going to go through some stages where it's not going to look the way you want it to. And a lot of people might look at this and say, oh, that's not the right yellow, and maybe switch colors. And that's not what you need to be doing, right? Like we started with green, right? Everything that's gold is started with green, then orange, then this yellow ochre. You'll notice already, look at how orange this is and how funky that might look. If you're trying to get to gold, you might think to yourself, well, why would you do that? Well, because as soon as I use the yellow over here, right, that orange that still exists on the model doesn't read like a really bright orange. This doesn't look like orange anymore. The orange just starts to either look like a tarnish, it can be dirty stuff, it can be reflection. You get to kind of choose how you want it to look, right? But the orange starts to disappear. Same thing with this yellow. I know this yellow is going to turn into exactly what we want as we start making it paler. Okay? Again, it's just a matter of getting used to working through a lot of stages of coloring and understanding where they're going to evolve from. And that just takes you doing it a couple times, getting to the state where you're like, okay, last time I freaked out, but it worked out great. And then coming back after it the next time. And I've already directed where all this yellow is going to go if you're asking yourself how I know where to put it, right? My orange is darker up here, brighter down here on this little piece. So I know that I've meant for, at least in my head, for my yellow to start showing up more down here. Wherever I built up my brighter orange, that's where I'm going to start piling in my yellow. Kids today don't know what bad pennies are. I feel like it's like, don't take wooden nickels. Like, okay. Like, okay, Grandpa, go back to sleep. And on our shadow side, much less of the yellow, but still want to get some color in there. I don't want to leave anything or very little in just the orange. But you got to be smart, right? You can't throw a whole bunch of yellow on a plate like I'm painting right this second because it's up underneath. It's overlapped by the plate above it. So I can't just, throw a ton of yellow here. So I'll do most of it along my edge at first. All right. Now we're starting to see our metal take shape, slowly but surely. Got to use that patience that so few of us have. Just go grow yourself some patience. You'll be fine. Create a secondary shine midway through that. That's then going to transpose right down to here. Two kinds. Hello. Who's that? Raid! Raid! Devonian, it's the cutthroat himself. What is going on, folks? Hello, folks. Hi. Hi, peoples. Welcome. Raid! Let's get some nerds in chat. Cutthroat Cure dropping by, dumping off some nerds in chat. Hi. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. If you're new around here, my name is Jason. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. How are you? It's Thursday. After Raid and Run, family's up. Bye. Take it easy, man. Thanks for dropping the crowd off here. Thanks for dropping the kids off at the pool. Welcome, welcome. We are working on Not Wonder Woman. Some third-party rendering and imagining of Not Wonder Woman, not Diana Prince. And we are starting to work on our non-metallic gold. So welcome, welcome. We are Monument Hobbies. We make this amazing line of paints called Pro-Acryl. Pro-Acryl. I'm singing a lot today, so if that's not good for you, if your doctor has warned you about random streamers singing about nonsense, then it's my duty to warn you that that might occur today. What I'm doing right now is adding a little bit of an area that I'm going to want to build up some secondary reflection around. So I create that line there. Then we go to immediate darkness on the other side, and then we blend back up to brightness on this side, and we'll dump back into dark reflection on this end. Using one of our number 2 igniter sable brushes right now. Poke a little extra brightness, a little hump in my edge highlight here to match with that secondary reflection that we did. Not as intense on the lower section here as on the upper ones, but you can see how I've broadened out my edge highlight on that bottom plate just to kind of match the brightness that I'm creating here. Always start my edge highlighting. We did it with the step before too, with the darker orange color. Always recommend when doing reflective surfaces like non-metallic, windows, shiny plastics, whatever. You're trying to create something that has a more defined shine to it, to always start your edge highlights with like your second color. It may seem early. You know, a lot of us are really used to only doing our edge highlights at the very end with whatever that bright color is. You do yourself a big service if you'll start to use darker colors to begin your edge detailing, like we're doing here. Allows me to start doing underside edges like what I'm doing right now that are not necessarily exposed to your light source. But are still going to want to have some crisp edging to them to pull off as being reflective. Hard surface. Deadbeat, thank you for the 5 months. Welcome back, man. You can't believe how not Wonder Woman that looks. Right? Right? We're having so much fun with not Wonder Woman. There's no W's. I realized that. Like, there's no W's. They were very careful to not intrude too far upon the IP when they made this model. It's a fun model, though. It's a one of our viewers, Armin's Wrath, printed it out for us to paint. We did a tutorial about using underpainting for flesh. Take a moment. Everybody that just joined in, show you what we're doing here. We, with this particular model, do I have my phone? I don't have my phone. I'll go get my phone. Hold, please. Hold, please. Grab my magic phone. All right. Look at some photos. Show you where we started with her. How we got to where we're at. So we did basically a big lesson in underpainting for flesh. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's using, you know, the undertones for skin. If you look at just your regular, if you look at your regular skin as opposed to your irregular skin, you notice there's a lot of color that happens through human flesh. And we assume alien flesh too. But we've got greens from where you can see veins, and pinks, so the capillaries come, and all the blood that goes into flush areas. You know, paler skin colors on something like your palm, right? Thinner skin that shows even more colors, yellows, and again, pinks, and some purples in the shadows. And you get all sorts of colors, forget my tattoos, but you get all sorts of color on just regular skin. And so that's what gives it its life. That's what our brain and you know, just our eye brain relation, when we see something, we can tell whether it's alive or dead. You lose a lot of that coloring, starts to look dead or fake, right? Mannequins don't look alive, not because they don't have human form, but because their skin is painted on, right? And the brain recognizes all of this even from a distance. So when painting models, to get away from having them look like it's just painted on, you know, and using dark brown, mid brown, light brown for skin, we do a technique a lot of times that I refer to as underpainting. In classical art sense, it's called verdaccio, and there's some other terms that people have used over the years for it as well. Right? But I started her off with a bunch of purples. We used our dark purple, burnt red, camo green, and then regular green at this stage. Right? So all of this is just our Pro-Acryl paint. Ta-da, Pro-Acryl. So starting off with dark purple as a shade layer, and then ultimately working through all of the other colors up until we get to green, right, on the highlight areas that we're starting to move towards. And then we stopped and took a picture for the stream where we showed how that relates to your values. You can be setting all of your values up with those colors as well, right? And then we started moving in with yellow greens, right? So we started mixing in bright yellow green with our green and working that up into the highlights, and then eventually some pale yellow on top of that. So we get to an area where our skin has this underpainting that is very vivid, much more than what you would see underneath the skin. And that's the thing when doing underpainting, what we'll call filtering, glazing a lot of times, is making sure that you kind of overdo it for the base layer, because that base layer is going to be darkened by whatever paint you put on top of it. And so that's what we spent a lot of time talking about, is how to build up those base layers. We did all this with brush very quickly, right? You can notice that I wasn't worried about blends very much, and, you know, all of that. You can see that my brush strokes are there. You know, I didn't feather my edges. I just let the brush stroke give me some texture. Skin does really well with texture anyway. And we just layered stuff together. I didn't mix colors on the palette. I really just put it on the model and let it stay, right? My purples, my reds, my dark greens, my bright greens, everything shows. It just needs to show in the right spots, right? And so that's what we did there. And then we went with the airbrush and we just filtered a layer of shadow flesh over the top. So that's one layer of skin tone over the top of that, right? So we did one layer of our shadow flesh through the airbrush, very, 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 very thin. You can see how in the shadows you can see this shadow flesh color. Look up under her neck, right? Right under her cheek, right here, where her underarm would be if she had arms, right? Middle of her sternum, right? So you can start to see, right down here on her thigh, you can see the shadow flesh actually occurring on the model, but only in the darkest areas, which is what you want. And then in the bright areas, we still see a lot of the yellow, green, and the other colors showing through. So she looks really jaundiced here. This is not enough. So then we add in another layer, right? And now we start getting lifelike skin, right? We start to see that the skin color's taking over, less of the yellow, yes, less of the green, but it's all still there. The reds and the purples and the sternum and the shadows under the neck, all that's still there. The dark green's playing its part. All of the colors are still visible. We still get the flush under her cheek and all that. But regardless of how we spent time with our blending that was really rough, this starts evening it all out, right? If I zoom in here, right, you won't be able to see as much of all of that texturing that we did with the brush, right? It all starts to go away. And as we filter, whether you do it with a brush or not, we did this with airbrush, putting the skin color over the top. But if you would have done it with a brush, same effect. You just have to be careful with how you layer and that you don't pool paint up. The airbrush is nice because it gives you just a good dusting of color that makes it even on the model without you having to work too hard. When brushing, you can pull off this exact same effect. You just have to make sure that you're not, as you pull the brush like into her cleavage here, that you don't dump a lot of paint there and have it build up. So you just have to be careful with that, right? And then eventually we got to where we're at, right? That goes back through the greens. But we got to where we're at with her flesh, right there. And that's where we are at this point, and we're painting on with all of the other stuffs. Wonder Woman with jaundice, exactly. Cave Troll, what's going on? Any tips for painting nipples? I always do nipples by adding into my flesh tone as opposed to painting the nipple differently than everything else. So I'll take whatever my mid-base flesh was, shadow flesh, whatever I'm using, and I'll add in maybe a little bit of mahogany, maybe a little bit of dark purple, maybe both, depending on the color of the skin. If it's Caucasian, then I'll tend to go to that more of a burnt reddish look with a little bit of the skin tone mixed in. You know, I generally don't want it too pink. I don't want it too brown, not too dark, not too light. You just play with it. But in that range of using colors like mahogany, which is a nice, rich, reddish brown, you know, something like that. Again, the dark purples are always great with flesh. And then that mixed with your skin tone, even if it's, you know, you go with a paler skin, you'll find in that trio of colors, a dark purple, a dark brownish red, and a flesh tone, you'll find what you need to do nipples. You might then want to add in more of a pinkish color, right? If you're doing darker skin tones, because obviously, you know, the nipple can either become lighter or it can even go darker. So you could add in, instead of this, you could go with darker black brown. So you just play around with it based on the skin tone that you're creating. Painting Crick says, just play with the nipples. Got it. Seems fair. Seems fair. Only because Amazon says, I honestly thought you were doing a She-Hulk crossover when you went green. Yeah, exactly. We've had a lot of people say that as they've watched the progression, you know, saying that, hey, you should have just stopped at green, you'd add She-Hulk. And yeah, I mean, it looks like that in every model that you do. We did it on one of our Marines as well, because the question, of course, came up that can you do it on smaller models? And the answer is, of course, it's just going to take a little bit more time from you to dial it all in at a smaller scale. This guy right here is literally that same buildup of purple, red, and greens as an underpaint layer and one layer of shadow flesh over the top of his skin. That's it. I haven't highlighted the flesh at all. I haven't done anything else. We just put one layer, and this is all done with brush, no airbrush, right? So you can see the greens, the reds, the purples in the shadow, but you get a really, really good basis for your skin tone. And we did this in 5 minutes, tops, right? So you can make a lot of really cool stuff happen even at small scale with that effect. And really, it's just more about understanding where the greens and the reds want to live. You know, purple in the shadows, reds in the flush areas, like right under the cheek, the eye sockets underneath the eye sockets, around the temple and ears, and then green in between. So you stitch the red and the purple together with your green, and then just brighten it up. Right. Generally, I brighten it up with brighter greens, because green is going to live in all the areas that are generally in your highlight areas: top of the cheekbone, top of the head, top of the nose, chin, sometimes jawline if it peeks out from underneath the ear, top of the ear. Just go brighter green with that, and then you just glaze, you know, with the brush, the flesh tone over this, and you get a really good flesh tone. So all scales are available for that technique. You don't have to worry about it. Like, oh, my model's not big enough to pull that off. You can. You can. So half hour of normal people time. Well, you guys all accuse me of being super slow, so I would have thought it'd take you only 2 minutes. If it took me 5, it must only take you 2, right? I mean, I'm jibber jabbering on stream about it, explaining it. Everything takes me about 500 times as long as it should take you. All right, so again, just going in and starting to lay the foundation for all of our brighter reflections again. We already got our burnt orange guiding the way, so to speak. This side of the armor is pretty much full on to our light source. So we might find ourselves, like I'm doing now, just getting rid of 90% of our orange altogether on some of these upward facing ones. But we did still go ahead and paint it with the orange because depending on how you're painting, if you're painting very thin and filtering your yellows, that orange is still having an effect even when we go fairly bright with our yellow ochre. Like only at the very edge of this is the orange not playing a part. You can see how it blends in and gives us some discoloration to that yellow all the way up until our just our most opaque level. So because we're not there, that orange is still visible through all of this, and it'll let you just dial it in. So rather than trying to avoid painting the orange in places where you know you're not going to need to see it, go ahead and paint it anyway, so that you can utilize it. You have it at your disposal. You can play around and have your colors turn out the way you want to, as opposed to getting to a point where it's like, oh, I really wish, that this was a more blended color up on top here. Brushstroke always moving towards my brighter color in this case because I'm using a highlight color. If I were doing a shadow, it would be the reverse. I'd be moving my brushstroke towards the darker area. But because we're using a brighter color here, always with the brushstroke going towards where that color wants to have the most appear, and that is in our highlights. Every brushstroke starts from darker, and that could be very relative, right? Not always very dark where we start the brushstroke. Just moving up, and now you're starting to see the gold become a thing, slowly but surely. Don't call me Shirley. That would assume you possess the skill with the technique before doing it and didn't have to repaint it 3-5 times to get it right. Well, okay, I get you. I always, when I'm talking like that, I talk about once you get the feel of it, time-wise. Yes. Lobster shaver, purple murple. Titty twister. That's going to be real thin right there, isn't it? Be over here, camera. Can we make a deal? How about that? All right, so I've set my brightness to be right through this area. Right, if it helps you, sometimes you can look and you can just say, okay, on this edge, I've got like brightness right there and brightness right there. That's where I want my buildup to be for my reflection, right? Don't make that very opaque, right? But then you can work back to that spot. Again, remember, brushstroke always towards my brightest spot. I just lined where that bright spot will be, and now I just work back into that. From where I want my darkness, I want dark reflection up around the top, and then I want to just bring these tails of color down towards that line I just put on there. Always building up more of that pigment right along that line so it maintains its shine, like so. And because this is away from our light source, I probably won't go as bright with the yellow on this side. But that's always up to you. Play around with how you like it. Come back in, shorter brush strokes, sink more brightness towards that line we painted. Every brush stroke I do will leave that tail with a little bit less opacity when painting this way. And gives us that blend, that fake blend, right? So now I've got my dark reflection up along the top into my bright spot, and then faded, very quickly into that darker orange below. Then we can actually do another spot like right here. And right here. Where I would probably get a little bit of shine from this center piece on her sternum would reflect back into that. You know, one of the biggest things to remember when doing metals, any kind of reflective surface, is that every time you paint a bright spot, what happens? We say this all the time. What happens when I paint a bright spot like this up here, or like this in the center? What does that become on the model? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Noodles, what's going on, man? Good to see you. You didn't know there'd be test questions. It's a pop quiz, Noodles. Dance with Cats, I use a matte varnish on your models before applying metallic paints. I found that the paint does not like to adhere to the varnished areas. Any tips? Okay, wait a minute. You apply a matte varnish on your models before applying metallic paint. You found that the paint does not like to adhere to the varnished areas, though. Why do you do the matte varnish before you do the metallic? Eberkenezer. Sorens. Ski. Thank you, my friend. 19 freaking months, Ski. Thank you so much. Bill Roberts says, an angel gets its wings? No. Maybe. I'm not going to rule it out. but it's a reflective point. Rage Wolf has got it right? So the idea is that as you're painting reflective surfaces like non-metallic or metals, right? We're just going to call them metals, right? So when you're doing reflective surface painting, which is what we're doing, trying to create the illusion of a shiny surface without using shiny paint. And in doing so, we've got to make sure that we keep that contrast where it is, but we also have to put the reflections where they're intended to be. Each of these bright spots is not technically a highlight, it is a reflection of light bouncing off of the surface. So when light bounces off of this surface and creates a bright spot, it also creates a light source. That light has hit here, now it's bouncing off, and that's why we'll create a reflective highlight down here, right, from this piece. So I have a bright layer here. That brightness will reflect back into this curve here, right? This reflection here could be a reflection from that same piece, right? Or something in the distance, or just another light source hitting it from above, right? But that brightness, if there were a piece of metal someplace else, or even the leather, right, you would then brighten up the surface that's next to it because it becomes like a spotlight. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as bright as the light source itself. Every time light is reflected, it loses some of its vibrancy, right? There are some surfaces that can amplify it, obviously, like certain mirrors and things like that they make to actually focus light and make it brighter, but that's not what we're doing here. So every time light reflects off of one of these points, it's going to get a little dimmer. Right? So you have to take that into account. You're not going to take and brighten this little area up here as much as this in most cases. Right? You'll have this be just a little dimmer like what we're doing. Dark Lady, thank you so much. Having some fun with this one. I like it. I like it. It's been a fun model. Not going to lie. It's very basic, right? It doesn't have a tremendous amount of textures or shapes going on, but that's not a bad thing. The size alone kind of makes up for the lack of some texture because we get to create all of that on our own. All right, so I'll just come in here, brighten that up just a little bit more. Same here. Just using shorter and shorter brush strokes each time to sneak that brighter color down inside there. And then we've got to hit these edges again. Thickening my line as I come across the top of this area. And then dialing a little bit more brightness along our shine line here. And then out of that shine spot across the top. Same thing up top here. A little bit more brightness moving into our reflective area that we did with that line, if you remember. Then we'll do the top. These edges are fairly soft, so very light brush stroke will get you that paint where you want it, like that. Then a little bit more brush pressure across the top because that's facing up towards our light source. And it's starting to happen. We're starting to see that this could be metal now. Getting closer. We're getting closer. Oh, we haven't done this whole thing either, have we? Derp. Model's very heavy. It's like full solid resin. So it's a big chunk. She's a big chunky. We don't judge. You're a little heavy, woman. All right. You notice that even though I want to have this line right here form, that I'm never painting that line like this. I'm always painting horizontal brush strokes into it. You get a lot better texturing for your metals by doing this, right? As opposed to painting a line. Even though what you want is a line, you want a line here. Notice I've always done horizontal strokes into it. Metal has a texture to it. It has a grain, not quite as predominant as wood does, but very similar. So you're always trying to find a way to bring that into the model so that you find that texture. That's part of pulling off the feel of metallic at the end of the day. I'm gonna grab this edge. My paint's pretty opaque right now. I'm not real thin. So I'm gonna do this edge highlight while I've got this level of thickness in my brush. Look for other areas I can use this same opacity of paint to get the job done. Always, always looking for where else I can use the paint on the brush before just going and cleaning the brush off. Right? Even when it's super thin, super light, not much paint left, always something you can do with the color on your brush until it's just non-existent anymore. Always. Taper that off into that really dark reflection there. I don't want to carry that line all the way at full value down into that pinch because I've got a good brightness underneath here. And then as I dip it down, I just barely thin it out to where it's non-existent up in there. Same from here. That gives us that good change in elevation and volume there. Same thing over on this side. And every little step you take at this point with your brighter colors is giving you that feel of reflective surface, that hard surface reflection that we're going for when doing metals or plastics, windshields, you name it. Some woods, some leathers. That's why I'm always, it's not that I hate the term non-metallic metal, it's that really if I teach this to you, or if anybody teaches this to you and they refer to it as non-metallic metal, I don't feel like you really get as much out of it, even if you can wind up doing metal really well at the end of it, because you'll always associate it to just doing metals. And this isn't just doing metals, this is doing anything that's a solid surface or hard surface, hard to the touch, that reflects light back. So like I said, glass, plastics, leathers, anything like that, you would paint exactly the same. It's just how you dial in your brightness and your darkness will give it the variation of reflectivity, whether it's patent leather or just kind of shiny, dull leather, you know, shiny, dull. That's a thing. I know, Ski, you've said you have very little time at all lately. Because if you matte varnish over metallics, you lose the shine. So you're talking about matte varnishing the model first and then putting the metallics on. So the matte varnish is the matte for every other color, and then the metallics you want to retain their shine. Have you ever thought about not varnishing the model, paint your metallics, and then when you matte varnish everything down, putting a little bit of satin varnish over the top of your metallics again? They'll jump back out and shine again. The matte doesn't ruin them. The matte will dull them, then you can put a satin varnish over the top of the matte, and it will brighten it back up. I don't know that you want to go gloss, but maybe you could try gloss too. But satin varnish and gloss varnish over the top of the matte will bring it back. A good example is that whenever you do water effects on a base, right? So let's, I think I have one base over here where I've done some water effects with resin, or, right? So when you do a water effect like this, right? And you want to have the, the water maintain that gloss, on it, then, you matte varnish things first. You'll get this will haze over. It'll look like solid ice, right? You won't be able to see down into it. And especially if you want to see like wires that you put into it and stuff like that, pipes and things, then you just go back over it with gloss varnish and that's what you get, right? It comes back and looks wet again. Right? And you can see all the way through it. So the matte varnish never ruins anything. It will put that dull top coat on it, but you can put varnish over the top of it and fix it right away. Thank you for the follow. Nosferatu, best spelling of that name. Love it. Ordered a bucket of Pro Acryl. I love to hear it. Awesome. Thank you for the support. Can't wait till they come in. I can't wait to hear what you think of them once you get them. I think one of the best things is hearing all the people that, because right now, right, we got a lot of word on the street, a lot of good word of mouth going on about the paints because more and more people are trying them out. And so it's always fun for us. But then what happens is a lot of people are like, oh, I heard they were good, but gosh, like I had no idea. Like they upped my paint game right out of the gates, because they really will. If you let them, if you work with them, if you, figure our paints out. They don't take a lot, but you will find that with other paints that you've used in the hobby, you've probably been working a little too hard to get certain things to happen, having to really, 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 really thin your paint to get certain effects to occur. And with our paint, you'll find that all of that happens a lot easier. So it sounds funny, but in a lot of cases, what you're doing is you're learning to work with our paints by not working them so hard like you would with others. If that makes sense. We love it. We love hearing what people's response to actually getting their hands on them and using them after they've heard other people talk about them and such. So enjoy, and make sure you come back on stream and let us know what you think. Use a real thin coat of yellow to just blend that back on that top just a little bit, but I still want to maintain all that dark reflection. Got to get some in these areas down in here. About out of yellow ochre, as I've jibber jabbered enough that it's all dried up. Just got the rest of the metallic set. Nice, nice. So again, when dealing in this area here, we still want to create our shine in the exact same way we did out here, right? So all of our shine blends from the darker areas into this bright line that we've made. We'll do the same thing here. We'll just bring a light brush stroke down into that area. There. Same even in here. Barely getting the point of the brush in there. Playing operation. Working my bright color to that same line. And I'll wipe a lot of the paint off. I don't need as much vibrancy now. with much less paint on there. I can create that comet tail of blend that I want. Bring the brightness in like this. That edge. Brighten that up. Same thing we did over here. Probably could stand to brighten these up just a hair. And by creating that line as a secondary reflection, notice how it creates the volume of the shape of the breast. If we just look at this, it look very flat if we just left one color. Even a nice blend going down here. Now, obviously, if you went really dark here and then you finally got brighter, you could make it look like it has a little bit of a curve. But by throwing that shine right across there, it makes it look like it has a much stronger curve. It can even make it look like it has this, right? This very sharp point to it. Right? So we're not going quite that abrupt. Right? But it creates the volumes, keeps them all intact. Let's just make sure we maintain shape. All right, so good, so good. We good? It's all right, so good. Again, very loose brush strokes. I start catching some shine on the top of the plate. Here, we'll have more darkness. It won't be shadow. Shadow wouldn't make sense here because it's on the top of her breast and it's facing the direction of our light source. What does make sense is dark reflection, right? So the dark reflection down in this cleavage will be generated from the other side of the breastplate and the body itself. So we'll be able to have a little bit of darkness make sense down here. Just have to control it and probably, depending on how bright we go with all of the gold, figure out how to make it look like, you know, skin reflecting back in it or something like that. Whereas on this side, much darker. And the only shine that happens over here is the shine of the skin as a light source. So we'll want to use much thinner yellow here. And maybe right where the pinnacle of the curvature of the breast line hits, we can do a little bit of brightness. I'm going to blend to that area from both sides here. Again, always adjusting my brush so I'm pulling the paint or pushing the paint into my brush stroke where I want the bright spot. Notice how I said I'm using this brush until I'm damn out of paint, like all the way out of paint. This paint's not doing a whole lot right now because the brush is almost empty, but still give me a little bit. Right? And so even on that side, I can create a little bit of brightness where it'll be the reflection of her skin back into the metal. But because that's away from our light source, it'll be much darker than this side. Right? But you can see how by creating that brightness, that could be her chest reflecting back into the metal. And it's all about, because all this is the same color. I'm not mixing any colors. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just dialing in the brightness of this color by thinning it out or not thinning it out. That's really all I'm doing. Expansion 1 and 2 are currently out of stock, but Expansion 1 should hit some stock tomorrow late, which means if you order it, you won't get it shipped out until next week. But we plan to be done filling the rest of the out-of-stock colors on Expansion 1 by tomorrow. And then Expansion 1 will keep getting more stock through the week next week as we fill the rest of those. And then Expansion 2 is probably 2 weeks out, something like that, before we get the transparents in. And then once we're there, all the paint should be in stock. So we're very, very close right now. You've wanted Pro Acryl, but the sets were out of stock? Yep. A lot of the sets were in stock, so you jumped on it. Nice. Yeah, Malev doing good work there. Yeah, and always remember, gang, that even though on the website a set you want might be out of stock, you can always use our bundle pricing, which is automatic. All you have to do is have an account on the store and be logged into your account as you shop. Just always go in, log in if your computer, doesn't keep the cookies and keep you logged in. Go log in up at the top menu every time you go to the store. We don't spam you with emails or anything for your login, but what it allows us to do is know as a customer when to apply the discounts. And so if you go in, as soon as you get to 8 paints, as you put singles, you just click on I want that color, that color, that color. When you get to 8 colors, you start receiving an automatic discount on all of your paint. If you get to 16 colors in your cart, you get a bigger discount. And if you get to 24, you get the biggest discount. So it's like building your own, we call it the build your own bundle. It's build your own set, right? So you can create your own set of colors. So let's say you wanted the base set, but you looked at it, you said, I really don't want the blues. I have blues I really like from some other manufacturer, but I love all these other colors. You could still pick all of those other colors and then find, 5 colors to replace the blue out of like expansion set 1 or expansion set 3 and get the same pricing. So you never have to worry about the set being out of stock. If there's singles that you want in stock, just add them in and you'll get the same pricing. Close. It's like 2% difference because we do box the sets automatically and have rather than pulling a bunch of singles. So it costs you like 2% more, but it's really easy. Ack, thank you so much. Glad you dig them. Oh, there, Jen got it. But yeah, there's always a good chance to get, the colors you want. Unless you just are like, oh, I really wanted this color that's been out of stock forever, or that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so this is pretty good just on the chest here. Let's go ahead and work a little bit of brightness on that. That'll help me dial in the shadow side. I don't want to just keep adding yellow, so I'm going to go ahead and brighten this up a little bit before we move on. So here's a good question. Now is where you choose, especially with golds. Do you go in with something like pale yellow? Right, pale yellow could help brighten this up. Or are you going with like an olive flesh? Olive flesh will brighten it up too, but it'll reduce the warmth because the olive flesh is, you can see the difference there, both very, very bright, very similar in their value as far as brightness goes, but I don't have the yellow, the amount of yellow in the olive flesh that I do in the pale yellow, right? And so the pale yellow will keep a lot of the warmth that's on the model, so it'll make it look more like that kind of fake cartoony gold. Whereas the olive flesh will start to desaturate it more like a white would and will lose more of the yellow, but will still gain the vibrancy that we want for that real pop of reflection. So I'm going to go with this because we're doing it kind of like movie Wonder Woman in that the leather's a little bit darker, a little bit more beat up, as opposed to Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. I didn't promise I wasn't going to sing that song again, so there we go. So I'm going to use olive flesh. Robosh, we're getting very, very close. Very, very close. I should have all of their order input tomorrow, and then it's really just waiting on transparency is the only thing we need for them at this point. As soon as we get transparency filled, then that order can ship, and by later this month, you should be able to grab all that, assuming that customs in the UK doesn't, hang it all up somehow. Should be good. So again, I can just choose to go very thin with my paint here and not mix it on the palette, or I could choose to go ahead and mix it on the palette. That's kind of up to you. We're going to shoot for not mixing on the palette. We're just going to go straight olive flesh at first, right? And we're just going to glaze it into our highlight areas here. So again, my 50%, right? The block of yellow ochre is really right here, so I'm going to only paint half of that at first. Obviously extending it out further along the edges, right? But only finding the brightness halfway through my yellows. And start small first. You can broaden this out to get the effect you want, but I always generally say, I always say go ahead and start kind of underestimating what you're going to need rather than pulling that brightness too far, right? Because if we jump that super bright shine out too far, then you could wind up with having to redo stages underneath that, and that's a lot harder than adding to. Right? Always harder to erase acrylic paint than it is to just paint more acrylic paint. But notice how just that little bit of olive flesh gets rid of some of that warmth, and now our yellow isn't so dominant, right? We definitely get the metallic feel right there. Bam, it's shiny metal now. And we haven't done even the brightest color, right? This olive flesh, like if we really get in there, right? This isn't a super bright color, right? Look at that. It's olive flesh. But because it does have such a higher value than the yellow ochre, right? We get that shine out of it. So don't feel like you have to jump to white. Oh my God, I gotta go brighter. I mean, you do, right? But you wanna be smart with it. Okay, so right here, we've chosen to blend into our shine line, which means that our brightest color wants to fall along this hard edge. So on this one, we wanna start putting our color there. A little too thin right there. Right. Again, I'm just exploring, so to speak, right now. So I'm not throwing a lot of color at it, just sinking it in there, and then we can always come back and broaden this out, make it whiter, which will make it brighter. But right now we're just playing. Boom. Right. Same thing down here, just a little touch. Obviously this is kind of up underneath that ledge, so it's not going to be super bright, but we can still get that in there. Even a little bit of color there that boosts that brightness, gives us that kind of modulation in the brightness of that edge that does a lot of work for us. We can start doing this edge. I think I might be too thin with my color here to really get, oh no, it's pretty good. I'm gonna say if you're too thin, obviously edge detailing becomes really hard to do. And from here, we just want to go a couple of brush lengths out away from our shine spot along that edge. Not too far. Same thing everywhere. We already started it here, but we're going to reach down a little bit further and then start pulling this bright olive flesh back up to our corner here along the edge. We don't want to run the whole edge with this. Otherwise, the yellow ochre that we did our edge highlighting with disappears entirely, and we don't want that. We just want it to fade gently into the previous color, right? Like so. And then same thing down here where this bright line that we've created hits the edge. You want to bring that brightness along that edge a little bit. Not too far. Like that. And then even out of it down here a little bit. That light, that shine that you create will travel along that edge for a brief minute. But we want it to go back to that yellow ochre line, right? So we go bright, mid-bright, bright again. And you play with that, that value along the edge, and that's going to give you a lot of power to really pull off that metal feel. A lot of people make the mistake right here, right? Like I will say 90% of the non-metallic that I look at in the world makes the mistake of just edging that whole edge with the same value color. Bam, put this olive flesh or white and just outline that whole edge. And you'll notice that this really punctuates the shine you've created by making that bright color on the edge lead into it. It comes out of nowhere and boom, ends at the shine. As opposed to running along the entire length, then it's like not clear. Where does it start? Where does it stop? You still have a bright spot here, but why does that line run all the way down into the shadow super bright? Then where we have another shine down here, we've got that bright edge appears just briefly again, right? Brief edge here, and then we'll brighten this edge up top. You're counting the days for what, Russ? Oh, for Element Games. Yeah, tons and tons and tons of people, including us, right? We're super stoked for that whole thing to come to fruition. Still a little disturbed that they did it as a pre-sale because we never guaranteed them when they were going to have the product. So now it kind of puts us on the rush, but I get it. I understand. We don't do that because we never want people to give us money and not get their product super fast. You know, but they were judging I think they were doing a judge of how popular the stuff was going to be before they placed their first order with us, which is completely viable. I get it. All right, so again, this top edge is very soft, so I actually have to draw it on. I can't use the side of the brush here reliably without getting way too thick of a line. I'm just penciling this on, basically. And again, we want that line to go bright to, I say bright to dark. It never gets dark. It just is bright to not so bright along that edge. I'm going to broaden this out a little bit. Pretty good there. A little spot of shine on the edge there, maybe like a nick. The armor. Now that I'm happy with how my color's sitting on here, I'm happy with these shine lines. Now I'll come back and kind of dial them in. Make them thicker where I want them thicker. And you can start to see our metal appear. Magic. Magic. Are there any updates on the new Go Bag? Yeah, soon-ish. They had a little bit of a slowdown with samples. They won't start the full order until we get physical samples. I'm hoping by next week I have the physical samples for the last batch. We're running Go Bags and the new Claymore brush case at the same time. And so the brush case, since we built it from the ground up, it's a new thing. And so we have to wait on the new samples. They won't, like, I'm very trustworthy. I'm like, you understand what we want. The drawings are good. Make it. We're fine. Let's pay you. Let's get them in. And they're like, nope. Our new factory won't work with us like that. They're like, nope. Until you have it in your hands and you approve it, we won't do it. Because I'm sure they have customers they built stuff for that when they get it, they're like, this isn't what we wanted. And then they're stuck with a bunch of crap they can't use. So it'll be good. Go Bags must be purple. No, we already did purple, man. Not the way that works. We are doing the Claymore brush case in red as our first special color. If you haven't seen it, the Claymore brush case is a really cool brush case that we're making. I'll go get one. I'll show you. It's not the right sample because we've changed it, but I'll give you a sneak peek. I didn't have to walk very far. I thought I left it on my desk, but I didn't leave it on my desk. It's right here. Oh my God. Oh my God. We've got a cool brush case. Boom, bam, ta-da, shabam. Holds 10 brushes. It'll be really cool. It'll have the M embroidered on it. Not embroidered, embossed on it. So, but it'll be green. It'll be military green. And it is called the Claymore. This side towards enemy. We're excited about that. Right? Yep, bright yellow green. We showed you what the special color for the brush case was going to be. Red, and then the brush. Oh, I'm sorry. Bright yellow green is the bag. Go Bag. This time around, bright yellow green. Assuming that color when the sample comes, we like it. But I think, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident that that's going to be the case. That's a little close. Yeah, we were super excited about all of that. And the only reason the brush case really isn't ready yet is my fault. When I designed it, I didn't remember in my head that the det cords had some shorter brushes to them. And so the case doesn't hold the det cords very well. So I had to redo a little bit of it so it would grab the det cords better. I was all proud. I was like, oh my God, we did this thing. It's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, wait. When we got the sample, it was awesome. It's awesome for everything except det cords. A little adjusting there due to my mechanical engineering prowess or lack thereof. Right. Ten brushes. Is that what you're asking? Brushes are not included. You never know. We get to do some really cool things with all these package deals that we got, right? What about a brush case that had 10 brushes included? That's a thing. What about a go bag that comes with a brush case, 10 brushes, and 96 paints? That could be a thing. You don't know. We got lots of plans. Of course, we don't have 96 paints. Just get a lot of duplicates. But yeah, what about an all-in brush case, go bag, all the colors kind of a thing, complete. Plus the tools. You guys have been seeing, you got some sneak peeks on like the mold line scraper and all that stuff that we're coming out with too. So boy, we got all sorts of fun stuff going on. A lot of that should be hitting hopefully around the holidays. It may be just after the holidays and be our New Year shebang, but yeah, a lot of really cool stuff happening. Primers, good gosh, gang. Golly gee, gang. Got good stuff. It should be lots of fun. Hope you hang out and see. All right, so just creating all these shine spots where we know we've got reflective goodness. Cheat some in over here, just small. Carteroni, thank you so much. Really enjoying this one. Being a blast to paint. Big surfaces, they can be really dangerous, right? Because you can get carried away, and sometimes they're really daunting. I know a lot of people that don't like painting big models, especially not big models like this that are lots of flesh and not a lot of texture, not a lot of places to hide your brush strokes on this. A lot of big open areas. But I really love this kind of model. We don't see it a whole lot in miniature. A lot of times sculptors are showing off all the texturing they can do and things like that, which is great. Then sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, too many doodads. This one's just very down and dirty and to the point. Wonder Woman. Or not quite Wonder Woman. There's no W's. We are not infringing on your IP here. And extend from my bright spot. My bright spot is this line of shine that I'm creating on the breast. And where it hits an edge, just take that, start right at that bright spot, and then just kind of flick the brush outwards so you get to the length that you're comfortable with. Like so. Same thing on the other end. Maybe take the brush and do a little Morse code tapping. Get that end to taper out. Again, just taking care not to ever edge a complete edge with this bright color. Always let it dip back down into my yellow ochre, right? That really sells the metallic. But you can see what a big effect this bright color has. That's really where your metals start coming alive. But you'll also notice I'm not using a lot of it, right? I'm being very careful not to overdo the brightness. And I'm only using olive flesh, right? Remember that what we're doing right now with olive flesh looks like super bright shine. The reality is boom, we still can go here. We still have a pretty big step in value to white. So I can still gain a bunch of shine. It'll be even less paint, just like right along edges. But I'll poke a little bit of the white on there to get that last burst of specular highlight where that light just desaturates everything right where the light hits that pinnacle point. That's really what brings it home. So Kurt wrote, he's like, I'm not lying. The all-in package. Shut up and take my money. Get it all. Yeah, that's what they would have said. Rancid Vomit. It's wonderful, woman. So many people wanted all. Your local did a charity event recently, and ProAcryl was mentioned. It was mentioned I have used all the paint. Everybody's like, oh my God, we got to have it all. That's good. Yeah, the hype for ProAcryl over in the UK and Europe is at an all-time high, and we're just hoping to be able to make sure that people get it and that, you know, because I know they didn't order enough to handle the big rush they're going to see when it's actually shippable. A lot of people don't like to pre-order. So we're building here so that we're ready for when they call us back, right, is our goal. That's the goal. Oh, I need to take a drink. I need a drink. I need some agua. And what time is it? 6:09? So last chance probably to go post some whip up in the whip gallery if you're interested in showing off what you got going on right now. Here in a little bit, we'll go take a look. Exclamation point WIP in chat. We'll take you over there. Now this is where our light is, so I'm going to be broadening all of this up and just dialing it in first, getting nice small areas so I make sure that I've got them all lined up the way I want. Then come back in and make that a much broader shine. These will be a lot more desaturated. This is what's going to dial in our volumes again and our lighting source and everything. We're going to take over a lot of our yellow ochre. A lot of that burnt orange is just going to go away as we do this. That's okay. That's what happens with light when it hits a reflective surface directly, it starts desaturating everything and you will lose a lot of the coloring around it. Right? You know, you've looked at a black car in direct sunlight and you can't see any black until you look away from where the light's reflecting, right? Same with all colors, technically. That light will desaturate every color next to it, the more reflective the surface is. Now here we will run this brightness because again we're really trying to dial the light up and the reflection up. We'll run way further along these edges than we did on the other side so that it stands in contrast to everything else we've done. Running out of paint on the brush. So again, using all of it. Can use it very, very thin right now. I'm not getting a whole lot of color out of it. I'm allowing that orange and the yellow to shine through, right? But being able to extend and get that fake blend out of there too, which is great. Right? You'll see where we haven't gone that far with our bright color anywhere else, and that really gives that area the shine. So now we know where our light source is. We've really dialed it in. Yeah, Russ, unfortunately, it always means that we're always shipping time away. But hopefully that's the worst we'll ever be, right? If all goes well and they can keep their order timing correct, then we'll only ever be the time it takes to pack the order and ship the order away from being restocked over there. That would be a godsend. Because I can't expect that they'll order enough, because at the end of the day, they are a store. They have a lot of other brands they support. It's not just us. And so we get it, you know. So they're not going to order like a year's supply just so that everybody can get it when they want it. I understand that. But hopefully we'll be able to dial it in over the first few months, and they'll get used to what their sell-through is like, and we'll get used to what their order, you know, quantity and, you know, their order timing, I guess, same thing on our end. So it should be good. Should be good. We got high hopes. High hopes. Still, even though we're dipping off into the dark reflection immediately after the peak on our breast here, we want to go through and bring that brightness off of that edge and down here just a little bit, like so. And then again, work it back into this edge here where we have that shine. Dial this up just a little bit too. Bingo. Like that. Same thing up here. All right. Dig in, get just a little bit of glare going on down in here. little bit of peak of brightness right in that, on at least that layer. Brush always moving towards the brightness. Always moving towards the brightness. How many times do I have to tell you? This area is going to be just like her right breast. This is going to be very, very desaturated. We're going to drag this bright color really far down in here. Down here, we're almost out of paint on the brush, so we can play a little bit around in here. Rather than being a direct light reflection, again, this is more of a reflection of her skin into the metal here. So notice how I'm not going as bright. I'm waiting until the olive flesh is almost gone from the brush. It doesn't have as much vibrancy to it, and now I can put it in there, and look, I almost have her skin color reflected into the metal there, which is exactly what I'm going for. How you doing? You done? You going home? All right, baby. What are you wanting for dinner? Not ready to think about it? I'll call you before I leave. We'll figure it out. Bad Blood Boss, thank you so much, man. I hope that in boggling your mind that it helps you also get your frame of reference on how you could create something like this, though. You know, my intention is to show you some really cool techniques, but also give you a piece of my braining of what I'm doing as I'm doing it. That is the same. I repeat this process on every model, right? Sometimes more texture, sometimes less, sometimes more color, sometimes less, right? But at the end, what we're going for is, bam, something that looks like reflective metal, right? Bad Blood, I'm scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Yeah, probably, Russ. You're probably right. I'm scared. There's no scared. There's no scared in miniature painting. There's just do. Just do it. And if you think about it, it should be easier. In concept, it should be easier for you on smaller models, right? Like we've got the area that we just painted in non-metallic metal is like half of a normal model, right? Like that's, you know, her breastplate alone is half of this dude's surface area almost. So, you know, when you really think about it, what we're showing here gives us a really good visual and how this lasts at scale, but dialing it in into smaller scale is really just a matter of you being able to create those blends in a smaller area, but it's also more forgiving in that small area because maybe you don't have to use as many colors. You know, that really, that small, tiny punch of brightness really does it. Bam, instantaneous, wow, right? But yeah, looking pretty good. Let's do a little bit of white, and then we'll take a look at some whip, and we'll be done. These are looking very, very good. I do want to bring, we've got this little secondary shine. I want to do a little bit of that in there too. But I got to do that with the yellow ochre first. Do I still have some? I do. Go back and get a little bit of yellow ochre here. And what I'm wanting is I'm wanting a little bit of shine, right? I've got this brightness to darkness here, but if I put this little bright spot and run it back, then I should get a little bit more oomph out of my metal along this edge. So I'm going to pull it right down here. I'm going to have it bend a little bit. It's not going to be straight. It's going to go down a little bit. And hook around a bit. So that what this is more of a reflection of this curve of this part of the breastplate over into this. Right? Might have hooked it a little much, but who cares? Who cares? It works. So then we'll have this would shine from this direction. Right? So we'll bring a little bit more of the yellow from this way. The reason for that is because I want my blend to go towards the object that it's reflecting, as opposed to away from it. It doesn't make sense to go away from it because the object could close over here. So I'm blending the yellow in because it's reflecting this part of the breastplate. So it's also going to mean that I'm going to pull my olive flesh on that towards our right, as opposed to the left, which I've been doing in most cases. Well, I guess not. Over here, we've been pulling towards the right. So it makes a little bit of sense. And here, we're just going to start by stippling a little bit on here. Got a dip in the resin right there, so tap at that and fill that in so we get rid of that weird darkness. Bam. Now that pulls off that metallic sheen a little bit more on that particular section than we did before. This section, we've got the reflection of her skin of the breast reflecting back into the metal, and that's fine. Got a little bit of dim reflection down there too. That works, right? Here, we want the reflection, light bouncing off, brightening up over here a little bit, this edge as it comes up, then shining back in. So probably not perfect from a physics perspective, but it gives us a little bit more to look at on this part than just a blend from dark to bright. Right? We break it up a little bit. It's a little finicky, but it works. So now white. Pa-da! Rogue. Are your dropper bottle racks double-sided or wall mountable and single-sided? They're all the dropper racks are single-sided, not wall mount. We don't recommend mounting them to a wall. They're built to go on a shelf. Muglore. Thank you so much for the 2 months. Welcome back. Mucho apreciado. The paint racks are all meant to be on a stable surface. We make them out of single layer MDF so that the costs are low for you, but that means they don't load bear to go on a wall. If you were to hang them from the back plate or something, you've only got like one joint on all of them. We've thought about doing like a double layer wall hanging one. I just haven't engineered it yet. I've got to take a look at what we can do to make that. Maybe we can do an add-on thing. We've thought also about making a shelf. So the easier thing for us to do would be to make a base plate that all of our racks snap into, and that base plate would mount to a wall, right? So that you could do kind of the same layout you do on the desk, but then mount it'd be like mounting a shelf on the wall, and then all the racks snap into that shelf. That's probably what we'll wind up doing. But again, I haven't done the engineering on it, so. The hardest thing with something like that is being able to ship it, because it's going to require brackets, and those brackets become fairly big. So we'll figure it out someday. All right, so now let's take a little bit of white, right? That's already looking really good, but you'll see how we can punch it up with white. right? Just look at the thumb palette and see, like, bam, how much brighter white is than anything we've done. White makes it look like we haven't even been painting with bright paint, but when you look at the model, it looks like we've been painting with bright paint. So again, we just want very, very small amounts. I've got a gunner on my brush here. Let's get that off. Very, very small amounts. We don't want to overtake the olive flesh too much. The white will have its impact regardless. So let's keep it tiny. Like so. Bam. Now look at that versus everything else we just painted. See? Like, I mean, that's no paint at all. Like, I didn't put hardly any white on there at all. Let's see how far we can zoom in. Bam. Look. Nothing. Right? Like, teeny, teeny, teeny. And I'm still doing rough brush strokes. Right? See if we can keep this. This will probably defocus as I do this, so I apologize if it does. But, all right, watch the effect that this has. Right? Literally one little speck of white. White is the most powerful color you'll ever use. So don't get carried away with it. Right? The point is, don't use a lot of white. Because white desaturates everything. It immediately made all of our olive flesh look much darker than it really is. It made all of our yellows and everything sink into darkness, which is good. That's what we're looking to do. But you got to realize if you put a lot of white on, then it just totally visually erases everything around it. Right? So you just got to be a little careful with it. Yeah, Rogue, the racks are great. If you have some surface area, the nice thing with the racks is that they all have flat tops that can be used for storing stuff on them. We made them so that, you know, you've got the ability to basically keep all of the area that the racks take up from your desk or take away from your desk, you get again at the top of the shelf, right? So they're 6 inches deep. You put one on the desk, you've now lost 6 inches, but you've got it right up on top of the rack again. You flat space. So the flat space, the footprint that the rack took up is up here now. It's a shelf. And then you also can load everything in. So they're very efficient for space. So a lot of people that start off wanting to be like, you know, hey, I'd really like to mount these to the wall. Can I? When we explain it to them, they're like, oh. Because a lot of racks that you buy are slanted and you can't really continue to use the space that you put them in. It's only one layer. It feels like it's kind of a waste. And with ours, you can literally stack them and never lose that space that you set them on the desk. Unless your desk is just too narrow and losing 6 inches at all gives you no room to paint. Okay. A little bitty tornado of white right there. Same thing down here. I'm just going to set it right to the left of our olive flesh, right? First off, hit this top brightness. Kind of teed along that edge. And then just stipple some white right down into that. Like so. And a little bit along the edge again. A couple of pokes of brightness along those edges. I love these type of reflections where we create them on our own. We just sink them right through the middle of a darker area. These, the white just punches out of the park, right? So we've created this reflection line here across the breast. Watch what happens. I mean, you're already seeing it everywhere else, right? But you watch it right in here. Oh, that got a stray hair. Need to clean this. That's going to cause us a problem. I love those. Not too chubby. Again, just pop a little bit of shine in there, even though it might not make sense, just because we can then see that detail that we lose as we get so much brighter. Right, the underside of the cup of that breast just kind of disappears if we're not careful. We put a little spot of brightness along that edge. Then over here again, this is our big saturation side. This is where all the light is. So we're going to go a little bit more loose with the white. That's literally a huge amount of white compared to everywhere else that we're doing this. So the first time we go in, we square off that edge. Knock off some of my paint. I notice my line is too thick. Just hit the brush on your thumb real quick, knock off most of the material, get you back to where you can do a very nice thin line. Don't want to take that too far. We haven't done the rest of that area. Boom. Not too shabby. We need to do all this, don't we? Barely enough white left on the brush to make this happen. Like we're gonna get it. And there you go. Of course, I say that, and then I'm like, and I keep seeing the things that we need to do. So almost there you go. Give me just a sec. Give me just a sec. We'll zoom back in. We got to do that shine that we created right in here. That little one. Bam. Not too shabby. We'll keep working at it as we do the rest of it, but I'm very happy with that right now. Looks good against the skin. Of course, as soon as we start doing the brush highlighting of the skin, we might find that the gold needs to either brighten up more, or maybe we darken it down a little bit, so that we make sure that the skin stays vibrancy-wise apart from the gold and doesn't wind up, looking like it's as bright as our metallic. Is the idea there. We'll have to adjust a little bit probably as we get a little bit further along, but it's looking good from all our angles. Pretty good. T. Schmidt.